Can you really close more deals with creative financing? Stay tuned. Welcome to this week's edition of NoteSchool TV, where every Wednesday at 11:05 Central Time, we bring you the most amazing guests as well as the most amazing content. And today, again, we've knocked it out of the park again with amazing guests and an update in the news today. So before we get into all of that, let's talk about, I want you to go ahead and like this episode of NoteSchool TV. So go ahead and hit that like button, hit the bell notification so that you will be notified every week when we're going live. And then number 3, if you have not already subscribed to the NoteSchool TV channel, please go ahead and do so. We have, 2.5 years of NoteSchool TV events on there. So we'd love to have you go in and catch up on those. And go ahead and comment. Make your comments. Send those to Eddie and I in the comment section. They really help us out. We really like to see what you guys are thinking, what's going on in your world, what you're seeing, all of those things. So please keep those comments coming as they make it really good for us. So also, if you would like to find out more about what we do at NoteSchool, just simply go to noteschool.com/TV. Again, noteschool.com/TV. And just type in the subject line, attend a masterclass. We'd love to have you in a 2-hour masterclass done by none other than Mr. Eddie Speed and our Chief Market Officer, Mr. Max Keller. Guys, that you'll get a deeper insight into what we do at NoteSchool. And we'll invite you, and because you're here, we'll let you watch, we'll let you come in and participate, for free, right? So make sure and do that. Again, noteschool.com/TV. So we're going to do the news right now, as we do every week, but we're going to do it a little bit differently. So we're going to go ahead and have Eddie come on. Guys, our founder of NoteSchool, our chief visionary officer, all-around good guy, my friend, Mr. Eddie Speed. How are you, sir?
Hello, Joe. How are you?
I am doing great. Eddie, there's a lot going on in the commercial world right now.
So, Joe, one of the things that I think we want to talk about is why we're changing, how we're doing the news. We do a market update once a month, last Wednesday of every month. It is the most watched NoteSchool TV episodes we have. But, Joe, more importantly, is we want to take some of these articles and go to a deeper dive because we feel like there's things in there that would be very informative. Joe, I find that the audience is pretty much split.
Yeah.
Right? When I'm talking to people that are full-time active investors in the business, what I call grizzled veterans, about 50% of them totally understand everything I'm saying about the trend in the market and commercial real estate and how it's affected by the banks and what that's going to mean and why that's so good for the note business and all that good stuff. And about half the people aren't necessarily so clear about this.
That's correct.
Right. And I realize that if half the audience of what I consider seasoned veterans in the business aren't so clear about it, we're just gathering some news sources and assembling this in a way that helps people compile information. And by the way, if you're watching and you're not a grizzled veteran, then this surely has to be good for you. Right. So we're going to kind of refocus this and do it a little more of a focused thing every week. And so, Joe, I was in Washington, D.C. last week, and we were doing lobby efforts for the Seller Finance Coalition. And here we come on a news drop, and Apple News makes a significant statement, and that is they said that there was $1.5 trillion in commercial mortgages that the rate was up for adjustment, what we call a rate reset. in the next 24 months.
Yeah.
And by the way, that rate's way higher than when they started.
Yes.
And then, so from there, you got on it and went and found another article that really kind of broke down what that means. So let's talk about that, Joe, and how you found it, and let's bust it open.
So, Eddie, what I was shocked to find when I started digging down into this is that, well, 88% of these loans, commercial loans that have been made since 2013, have been interest-only loans. So really the tagline here, and guys, this isn't just office. This is office. This is multifamily. This is industrial. This is retail, shopping malls. It helped the commercial property industry boom, but just like the title says here, now they're coming due. And that's a big number, Eddie. 1.5 trillion are coming due, and actually it's in the next 2.5 years between now and the end of 2025.
Well, I think the key to it is about 70% of all commercial lending has been done by small and regional banks.
That's correct.
So they dominate commercial lending.
Yeah. And
I think that the reality is the banks are under pressure, and that's not going to change. It's not like, okay, they had 4 or 5 bank closings and now that little thing is over. That is not even, we haven't even come close to the real issue and how many banks are having troubles. And everybody thinks, Joe, the banks are having all these troubles because they bought these long-term bonds, like a couple of articles that have been written. Well, the guys out in California, their bank, the issue is they bought long-term bonds and the bonds went down in value because rates went up.
Right.
I'm not saying that a lot of the banks didn't buy bonds, but a way bigger risk in their portfolio, a way bigger risk in their assets on their books, are these commercial loans.
Yeah.
And yes, office is leading the way in problems, but office is far from the only problem.
Yeah, we've scrubbed, I've scrubbed so much data in the last week, and we can talk about that on a later episode. But it's a thing. Well, here's part of the deal. So commercial properties booming. Of course, you got interest only loans. Then you come in and boom, it comes up and it's time to reset or refinance the loan. Property values are down as much as, well, some say as much as 50% on office, Eddie. And now we're going, okay, Fitch Ratings estimates that 35% of loans coming due this year between this month and December will not be able to refinance due to interest rates, property income, and values. That's kind of the big three, isn't it?
Well, and I think the big thing is, and we're going to have other segments on other days, but there is ample evidence that all the real estate classes have dropped in value. The problem is not the drop. The problem is where the hockey puck is going.
Right.
And it's not going up.
Right.
Right. The values are continuing to drop. And that means that if, a syndicator went out and raised money for multifamily or whatever, right? Mm-hmm. Now, all of a sudden, the values dropped, and the lender's basically going to come in and say, look, you got to make a big principal reduction. We're not making an 80% loan anymore.
Right.
We're making a 55% loan on that property or a 60% loan on that property. And that's the issue is you're going to have to qualify with some new standards, and you're going to have to qualify with current market rates. And Joe, let's just be fair about it. Current market rates are about double.
Yes.
from where they probably got the loan originally. Now there's a window in there in time and stuff. But I want to say to you that if you're looking at 1/3, 35%, you're looking at 1/3 of the assets coming due this year saying they're not going to be able to qualify for a refi. Joe, that means they're headed for the courthouse.
That's exactly right.
Foreclosure.
And that's 500, a little over 500 billion of the 1.5 trillion if you were to do the math.
Yeah. So this article is important, and it's important because there's so much changing in it. Joe, I know you got a graph before we move on and have our guest today.
Do. Yep, I do. And this just shows, and this was presented in the Wall Street Journal, but Trepp Analytics had this put this with this article, but you can see how, we were over here in 2010, and you can see how there's just been a steady climb to where 85%, over 85% of the commercial mortgage-backed security loans, all these loans are interest only by the year of issuance. So it is a thing. It is something that we're going to watch, obviously, and it's this is just part of the opportunity as to what's happening out there in the marketplace.
Yeah. Here's the bottom line. When the banks are struggling, the sad thing about that is they're struggling. For us, the good thing is when banks are struggling, the note business always gets better.
Thrives.
Right? And there's multiple dimensions to this that we're going to be talking about. Like, where does money go if they're not investing in these projects?
Right.
Well, it's not going back in the stock market. It's alternative investments, and people are looking for something to do with their money. If you're making these investments, at least we're drawing kind of a point to it, helping you evaluate some of the decisions that you're making. We're not saying there's no deal out there that makes sense. We're saying that if you're unaware of these market conditions, then you may not be asking all the right questions.
That's right. Well, Eddie, we say that, at NoteSchool, our motto is we show you how to close more deals, and that's for sure. But our goal is to keep you guys informed so that you can make better decisions.
No doubt about it.
No doubt.
All right.
Eddie, why don't you bring on our guests, and we'll get on with that.
All right. Well, our guests today are newer friends of mine. I haven't known them for many years, but I have become fast friends with them.
Right.
And just really impressed with the time we've spent together. Just so impressed with what they're doing and their story behind it. So you guys welcome Gabriel and Albert Vega. Good morning.
Hello. Good morning.
Morning,
How
guys.
are you?
Oh, doing better and better.
Well, that's awesome. We're glad to have you guys. You guys are from down in the Corpus Christi area, right?
That's correct.
So I'm going to let you guys get on with it. And Eddie, you guys have fun. Albert, Gabriel, and I'll see you in a few minutes.
All right. Thank you, Joe.
Cool.
So it's great to meet you guys and really hear your story. I know that we've been able to spend some time together in some masterminds and things since you've become involved in NoteSchool. So we just really felt like it was just such a great story that, well, guys, everybody had to hear it, right?
Well, that's kind.
So Gabriel, Albert is your father.
Yes.
And Albert, I really appreciate this. My father-in-law got me in the business, and then I got my father in the business.
Mm-hmm.
And my father told me at least 1,000 times, and probably closer to 10,000 before he passed away, that he loved this business more than anything he'd ever done. And so I think it's a pretty good gift to go get involved in this with your family. Not everybody's situation is different, but I just thought you guys had such a great family story. It was something that I think we wanted to do. So, Gabriel, let's start out a little bit. how did we start down this journey? You found us, and what was the biggest reason that really Note School appealed to you, that you wanted to move forward?
Well, so I think like many of the other Note School students, we kind of we start down this path of self-education, finding mentors or finding groups that will help facilitate the things that we're looking for or wanting to accomplish in the real estate industry. And it just so happens that my mentor and friend and someone that I respect very well in the industry was interviewing you, Eddie. So that's actually how I found out about Note School TV. We come from a background of subject twos and seller financing. So, once we realized that your team and the network really specializes in creative terms and looking at deals differently, we really thought that this would be the logical next step for adding that to our base for continued education regarding real estate.
So you originally saw me when I was interviewed on Mitch Stevens' podcast.
Yes.
My long friend, Mitch Stevens. We've had many, many miles together and lots of transactions. And we deal, of course, with Mitch and his partner, Mike Powell, now today, and are glad that they're in our ecosystem. And obviously they bring a lot of value. But yeah, I mean, this whole thing of creative financing for me became just like one idea spawns into another, right? And a lot of people, as you know, they think, well, I kind of, I've done some transactions and I kind of know creative financing, but I think it's like a lot of things. The more we focus on it, the more we start figuring out there's areas of creativity that we just hadn't explored yet. Does that make sense?
Oh, that's completely the case, at least speaking for myself. Again, you do a couple of subject to deals without finding a mentor. You think, oh man, I know something. Yeah. and then you find people who've been doing that for many years before you, that have been through the ups and downs of those things and seen just about any kind of problem that can arise and solutions to help the process just go smoother on everybody's side. Then you have contrast, right? You have that contrast of oh, I thought I knew this much, and it's like, oh my gosh, it turns out I got a lot to learn. So
I'm
it's like I tell my dad.
I'm asked that a lot by active real estate investors. They do a deal or two and they kind of think they have this, and it's okay. But I'm just saying, I think I describe it like football. There's junior high football, there's high school, there's college, and there's the NFL. All of them are playing football. It's just a matter of what level you can get somebody to, right?
That's correct. That's a really great analogy. Yeah, it was like we just discovered the pigskin, basically. And then we realized the different leagues. Like I tell my dad, we just got to trust in the journey. We're gonna, if we have our target, we know where we want to be. The solutions will present themselves as long as we're receptive to them.
One of the things, Albert, the reason we wanted to have you on today is Gabriel is more involved in the day-to-day operations of your real estate investing, but you were the encourager to say, with good information comes the best decisions.
Absolutely. And, it is a family business for us, right? So we, from my perspective, I have Gabriel and his wife and family. I have my wife is involved in the business. Our older son is really now becoming a bigger part of the business. But, I came from, if you want to call it, the corporate world, right? So I retired from UPS as an area manager.
Mm-hmm.
But, we always believe that you know, the future for us was real estate because of the dynamics, the opportunities that are presented for us. And, you know, Gabriel and Amanda, were a big part of helping, you know, to be honest, to convince me that this is the way we want to go as a family, right? Not only me, I and myself in the later years of my career, so to speak, but for him and his family and my other son and his family and their future because of the connections he made, the Mitch Stephen connection that you talked about, and then subsequently being introduced to you and your team and the NoteSchool environment, and then looking at it from a big picture perspective as to, hey, this is the place to be. Because I've always believed that we don't need to recreate the wheel. We just need to understand the people who did and have fine tuned that wheel, that operational wheel, the processes that are necessary. I mean, we all live through them. We can learn. We learn by doing. We learn through our mistakes. But if we can minimize those mistakes just a little bit, you know, by using the knowledge and expertise that the NoteSchool environment and ecosystem have brought to us. And Gabriel will speak about even deals that have come to us directly from NoteSchool, okay, and our involvement there. You look back and you say, wow, this is such a great avenue for success, right? For those who are thinking, hey, how do I get there? How do I get to where you are, Eddie, or any of the team that have been in this business for 30 years or more? You know, how do we shorten that learning curve? And that's what you bring to the table. And that's the biggest thing that I took away was that, wow, this is that shortening of that learning curve that everybody's looking for. I mean, you know, because it's important. Not everybody finds it, or they find other avenues, and you know. But for us, NoteSchool was the way.
Well, I appreciate that. You know, there is something about some gray hair. There is something about experience. And if you do it right, and I think we work hard at trying to do it right, I can minimize Gabriel's learning curve. I mean, I can minimize it. I can shorten that learning curve a lot. And I can say, look, I've tried 1,000 different ways, but I'll guarantee you, if you'll do it this way, it'll probably be the best to you. You know,
Right.
Gabriel, I want to talk a little bit about, like, before joining, you know, for anybody to join any kind of a program or a network or an ecosystem or whatever that is, right? For anybody to do any of that stuff, they have to feel like they have a need. You know, there's a reason you got to go do it. What was that?
Well, I guess our need really had to do with, you know, just being uncertain on some of the creative terms that you know we thought that we could offer, and finding, you know, more like-minded people who are already in the industry, who are doing things and that can provide a different kind of perspective. You know, that could be, sometimes it could be guidance, sometimes it could be an outline to how we do things, sometimes it's just simply something we've never thought about, another perspective that would do us a lot of good when we consider, you know. So it was really, the needs are you know, having a large network of people whom we can rely on to ask these kinds of questions. The other need was, you know, finding deals, and the other need was, you know, finding the capital to take these deals down whenever they're made available. Because, you know, a friend of mine once told me, you know, you can't buy a deal in slow motion. So, you know, it really does help to acquire those deals whenever you're in a realm of people who understand a lot of what it is that we do with creative terms, financing, and acquisitions.
So let me ask you a question. Since you've been involved in this and have a different perspective, let's just call it a deeper level of knowledge, a wider vantage point, can you close more deals?
Yeah, absolutely. We're closing more deals. We've since we got back from Summer Summit, funny enough, we've been having just deals fall upon our laps, so that we're starting to pick and choose those deals. We're starting to recognize a little bit better about whether that deal is right for us, depending on our entrance and exit strategy. And that has a lot to do with, looking at deals a little bit more creative than, the basic buy and hold or fix and flip. Not that those aren't bad strategies. It's just that there's more rounds in the chamber, so to speak, as to how we can dissect the deal and maybe take something that was maybe mediocre and make it a lot better, depending on how we can structure those deals, those exits.
So those deals were probably coming in front of you before, but you didn't see them as an opportunity. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Because sometimes the cost for entry would just eat up the equity in the property. So it was like, well, we can't flip this, or we can try to do some forced equity here or there. But after commissions, we're working for nothing, So yes, most definitely, it was about recognizing the different strategies and opportunities from deals that even other people have passed on.
We've learned a few patterns from people that join any kind of a mentorship or membership program, and people will come to NoteSchool and they've been in some other program, or they've been involved in something, or some way that, that they were been influenced by how they were learning. And what they kind of say to us is, I wanted less of this and more of this, right? Is that true in your case?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Whenever you're out there on your own, trying to figure stuff out or piece things together, without, and this is like back in 2010 and around that time frame, before we found mentors like NoteSchool and Mitch Stephen. There's a lot of uncertainty of where the next deal is coming from, uncertainty on even how we're going to acquire those deals, and so with that comes stress. So we definitely wanted less stress regarding that kind of endeavor, that course of action, and because we found these different places that are able to help us understand different perspectives regarding what it is that we're looking at and how to maybe even acquire them. So for instance, like in the case of subject twos, we've always come from a background of we're going to use our own capital, so that way we don't get into a debt situation. So it's kind of been rinse and repeat with our own capital. But now, through understanding how to take down a good subject to, using proper paperwork, like Jeff Watson's paperwork, whom again we discovered through the ecosystem of NoteSchool. We're more confident in the ability to take over a subject to and then to wrap it. So that uncertainty of how to find those deals and how to acquire those deals has definitely been less stress the further and longer we are in this industry. And with the connections that we make, if I needed to do a long-term hold, Lou Brown, I'm using Lou Brown's paperwork, which is again someone who we found from NoteSchool.
We have tried to do a really good job of trying to figure out like what people need and like how we can build some mechanization to it so that their process becomes shorter, their success becomes longer, right?
Yeah, because the key to that is if you don't have those people in place with that experience, you're going to have to develop that processes yourself. You're going to have to take the time to build it from the ground up. And how many years is that going to take before you can figure out everything that there already is to know from, by doing it yourself? So
there's a saying that says money finds a deal.
Mm-hmm.
Beginners say, I don't know how to do deals because I don't know how I would find the money. I think what we try to do, Gabriel, is go backwards and say, are you working on a good deal? And then we'll do exploration of what the possibilities are of how you would source, how you would buy it.
mhm. Yeah, that
And
makes sense.
and I'm hoping that what you're saying is that's why you're finding deals that otherwise you were just passing on.
Yeah, no, that's definitely part of what I am saying. I'm saying that the things that we were uncertain on, right? Exactly. The deals that we would pass on. We've found multiple exit strategies, and we're developing networks on how to vet a deal that would fit the criteria for other investors' money to come into. So
Your time is precious, isn't it?
oh, it certainly is. Everybody's is, right?
Family, and you have other businesses that you're involved in, so you don't necessarily just do this full time all day every day.
That's correct. We do have a retail background that it's been good to us for the past 20 years. But in light of different circumstances, we're looking to kind of shift gears more into making real estate our full-time endeavor. So this is one of those things. It's not a secret. Is it a sink or swim moment? I don't know. It's definitely a transition, and it's a transition that really allows us to have more freedom to do the things that we want to do, as opposed to some of the day-to-day managing that the retail business needs and requires in order for it to be a successful business.
Well, I think the thing about it is, I know that you're focused on creating some, not just income from your real estate, but wealth from your real estate. And I'm hoping that what we're helping you guys do is to see how to put that together. The best decisions are probably the decisions that we look back on, and we can figure out if they were a good decision or a bad decision. So going down the road of creative financing, and obviously, and grateful you're in NoteSchool. Looking back, is this the decision you should have made?
Absolutely. I can't tell you how many different advantages. I'd probably categorize them more as a blessing that NoteSchool has brought us, not only with the level of education, the consistent updates as far as where the market is and what we might look to consider for the future, but really, I mean, and that's been a whole group of wealth all in its own. The other thing that has been, I guess, surprising to me, because I haven't been down or developed these kinds of networks before, is really the quality of people that are at NoteSchool. I mean, the backgrounds that people do and come from is extremely diverse. I mean, and not just in the real estate thing, but if we were just going to list some real estate stuff, I mean, we have them from hard money to, commercial, single family, owner finance, buy and hold, fix and flips, land
Some
guys.
of the largest real estate brokers in the country.
Just, yeah, exactly. It's just amazing. So, being able to, develop relationships with them, and just have casual conversation. You never know where they're going to lead, and you never know, what kind of insight can be provided. And that was one of the the biggest things that I found is the quality of people that actually do flock to NoteSchool and stay with NoteSchool and network with these people. We just picked up a deal, as a matter of fact, from a student of NoteSchool who's pretty recent. It's funny. He's a young gentleman. He lives in Peru, and it just so happened to have an assignment contract deal the next street over from my residence.
Wow.
And so we took it. We took the deal, and I think it's going to make an excellent house. So that way I can get my parents on over on the next street living behind me. So that way they're a little bit closer to the family, and then I can send my daughters and children on over to go visit them a little bit more easier. So awesome. I mean, I just like I tell my family, you got to trust in the journey. You know, whenever the questions or the answers to the questions that we have just kind of naturally present themselves, there's something to be said about that. We're just trusting in the journey, and it's been amazing. It really has.
That's awesome. You know, there's a lot of turmoil in the market. And I think the culture at NoteSchool is very different than others. And that is, this is sort of, if this is the rabbit in the briar patch story, this is this rabbit's briar patch, right? We understand how to make money in these markets. Albert, I want to close this out with this, and that is, you had a vision in encouraging Gabriel and the family to pursue this. Is this vision going where you think it needs to go?
Oh my goodness. Absolutely. And even more so that I've had the opportunity to attend my first summer summit. As you know, Eddie, got a chance to visit with you and Joe and Mike Powell and so many people that, you know, Gabriel had always said, Dad, you know, you gotta meet these people. Okay, you really need to meet them. Yes, I had the vision. They brought me their vision. We put it together and said, okay, as a family, where do we want to be? Right? You know, year from now, 2 years from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, right? We said, where do we want to go? But it really clarified the vision for me in terms of how we're going as a family when I had the opportunity to really meet all of the team that were in the summer summit and in person and realize that, you know, the first book I ever read about becoming an entrepreneur was Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich. And I read that book when I was a kid, you know.
That's great.
And one of the things that I always took away from that book, and I know people who are listening to this and see this will know that book, because that was the first one I ever read, was the mastermind principle. And, you know, finding the like-minded people that think like you want to think, like you think, that want to go in the same direction. And that's what struck me probably the biggest when I attended the summer summit, was that everybody there, it was like-minded. And that's and you know, I got to attribute that to what you've done, Eddie, and your team, and the way you put it together, and taking newbies, we'll call ourselves newbies, like us as a family, and welcoming us to that group, to your team, to your ecosystem, so that we have the vision that we had to start with was razor sharp and clarified for us. It said, this is where we got to be. This is the direction that we need to go in. And this is the team, the partnership that we need to align ourselves with and to make the best use of that. So thank you for that.
My vision when I started NoteSchool over 20 years ago was to have an ecosystem. Part of it is our leadership, but part of it is attracting good people. I think our audience today can see that we've attracted some pretty good people. And these two people right here are definitely a part of that process. Joe, I'm going to let you come in and close us out. This wasn't an infomercial today. I just think they're saying what they feel. Yeah.
It's what it
is.
It's
guys, it was the sincerity certainly there. And, you know, I always say we're more alike than we are different, all of us, right? And we want to be, like you said, Albert, around people that think like we do, have the same morals, the values, all of those things. And you guys represent, you know, the NoteSchool ecosystem as well as anybody that I know. So I appreciate you folks being on today, and we'll wrap this up, guys. So again, thanks so much for joining us today for this episode of NoteSchool TV. We bring it to you live every Wednesday at 11:05 Central Time. And this is just a representative of what we do and the type of folks that we have in our group. And it's what we do, right? We show folks how to close more deals in their real estate business. So we will see you same time next week for the next episode of NoteSchool TV. Have a great week, and we'll see you soon.